Do you guys remember owning a little table and chair set like this one with this yellow finish? Well, today we're gonna be updating it and making it a little bit sweeter, a little bit girlier. So we also have to take care of this. So stick around for today's very sweet transformation. Right off the bat, after inspecting the set, I realized that there were some dark stains trapped between the wooden top and the top coat that they use. This tells me that there's a high probability that the set was refinished once before, and whoever sanded it didn't sand enough to get rid of those stains. The set belongs to my customer Lauren, who is currently remodeling her girl's bedroom. So here I'm trying to recreate how the bedroom is going to look once it's all done. The bottom half of the wall has a beautiful light color, while the bed frames are bubble pink. And as you can see, the orange finish on the set clashes with the rest of the look. So the goal is to make the table and chairs look more fitting. As for the wobbly legs, sometimes all it takes is to tie the nuts, but in this case the nuts were stripped, which means I'm gonna need to replace them. Before I start sanding, I'm gonna get rid of the grime that can be sitting in the surface by cleaning it with simple green. What are you saying?
I'm broke. I'm broke.
Because you drop it?
Yep, but I got a screen protector.
Hey, you're gonna be more careful with the phone now, huh?
Well, I was careful with it anyways, Mom. I'm not...
These brace brackets have become a bit rusty over time. I'm hoping that by letting them sit on a 1-to-1 water and white vinegar mixture and scrub them, I can get rid of enough rust. That way I can spray paint them and they're gonna look much nicer. You know what they say, it's all about the details. Before taking the rest of the table apart, I'm going to be numbering the side of the table to match the corresponding part of the skirt. This way, when the time to put it back together comes, each part will go back in the right place. I know this is a small thing, but vintage pieces can be particular. We're going to be sanding the top using 120 grit, and I'm gonna be paying close attention to the dark spots we saw at the beginning of the video. About halfway through sanding the top, I spotted some areas that were a little concerning to me. Something didn't look quite right, so I decided to sand a second time, but this time using 150 grit. Even after that, I wasn't satisfied, so a third round with 180 grit was needed. And if I'm transparent, something still looked off after I was done. At this point, I decided to reach out to my customer. I wanted to get a sense of how important this set was to her. Was this an heirloom, or was this a piece that she had just bought, which I found out that that was the case, and she didn't know where those dark spots had come from, which I have a suspicion that they have a lot to do with the way that this top is sanding. I communicated that I was gonna try my best to make the set shine again, and she was grateful. She also chose this early American stain for the top of the table and the seats on the chairs, while the rest is getting painted with a beautiful color damask from Fusion Mineral Paint, which is a moody pink with lavender undertones. And I'm kind of sad to share that the seats didn't sound any better than the tabletop. But friends, at this point, I've decided that I'm just gonna keep sanding and I'm gonna stain them. There's nothing really that I could show you on camera. There was just something about it. And I'm dealing with maple here, which can be finicky and tricky to refinish. If you ever decide to refinish a set like this one, just know that I find it easy if I start sanding the flat surfaces first and whatever I have easy access to, and then I move on to anything that has a groove or a curve, because I know that those spots just require a little bit more detailed sanding. And that's when this hand tool comes in handy. And after tackling some of the details with that tool very successfully, I realized that it was gonna take way too long to do the legs and the spindles due to all the little details that they have. So I'm pulling out the orbital sander from Surfprep using the bendable abrasive. It's a fine grit, and check it out, it really gets into all the crevices and grooves. Is that noisy for you? Morning, I'm getting ready to rinse every single little piece. But my biggest takeaway about today's project is don't underestimate the size of the chairs. I probably spent the same amount prepping the surface of those than I did prepping my normal size chairs in my dining table project that I refinished last summer. We're gonna be staining both the seat onto the chairs and the tabletop. The rest is gonna get prime. So before I can start staining or priming, I need to make sure that the pieces are clean, and I'm using a TSP alternate and water mix to make sure that I get rid of the sanding dust. My sweet friends, wouldn't you know it, as one of the seats started drying out after getting it rinsed, some wood contamination signs started to show up. Hey guys, we have a little bit of an issue. I just got done washing the pieces, and as this chair is drying, I'm starting to see some green spots. There, that's more the color that is showing in person. So I really don't want to stain over that. That has to be some kind of contaminant in the wood, unfortunately. So I'm gonna try getting rid of it using some Barkeeper's Friend and scrub those areas and see if we can get rid of them. Just gonna let it sit there for a minute before I start scrubbing. It's been about a minute. Let's see. Well, they look a lot better. Well, friends, the Barkeeper's Friend worked. I might do one more round. Little shadow here and there is not green anymore, and it's definitely a lot lighter. Same chair, I don't see any green spots anymore, so that's good. Barkeepers to the rescue today. I'm gonna be staining the seats with an oil-based stain, and as you already know, I'm gonna be painting the rest of the backrest and the armrest with a water-based paint. Since water and oil-based products don't mix, any stain residue will prevent the paint from sticking. By taping around all these areas, I'm preventing any future adhesion issues. And since there are two pretty significant dents that were too deep for me to sand without altering the shape of the edges, I'm filling them up with wood filler. I'm gonna be waiting about 30 minutes for the wood filler to dry, sand everything until smooth, and then I can start staining. Once I mix the stain components with a steering stick, I use a foam brush and apply 1 coat of Early American stain from Minwax. And here is where things took a turn. After applying the stain to the surface, I waited a minute before wiping the excess off. And this is when I saw that, unfortunately, despite all my efforts sanding the wood, it was not absorbing the stain evenly. And I'm afraid that sanding the top again is not going to get me anywhere. So when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Now the big question is, how can I improve the appearance of the top? Should I apply another coat of stain? But it would have to be a gel stain because that one is highly pigmented and it could really help improve the patchy look that the top has. I guess at this point I'm willing to experiment and see if that will work. I also wanted to check with my client first because I knew that by applying that second coat of gel stain, it was going to darken the surface just a bit more, and I wanted to make sure that she was going to be okay with that subtle change. And she was completely fine with it, and she told me to move forward. So I'm gonna wait for this first coat to dry, and then I'm gonna go ahead and apply that second coat. This wood is a little too patchy, and antique walnut resembles the Early American. It's just gonna make it look a little more even. Even though I try my best keeping the stain away, some of the oil stains still bled through the tape. I'm sanding any of that residue off because trying to paint over oil with a water-based product is just going to be a waste of time. That paint is never going to stick. We have to get rid of the sanding dust after. And yes, now we get to tape the opposite sides, which it's kind of tedious, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but again, it must be done. Remember our wiggly armrest? It just needs a little bit more glue on this part to stabilize it. I'm going to be using some Tybond Quick and Thick by pouring it into the syringe, and then I'm just gonna get the glue really in there. This should stabilize the armrest. It's gonna take about 2 hours for the glue to do its job, and then I'm gonna continue to cover the stain areas before I can spray the primer. Clamp it and let it sit for a little bit. Now that the repair is dry, I'm gonna go ahead and try to keep any primer or paint from the stain areas. For that, I'm using this painter's plastic tape. Cutting a small opening, I pulled the plastic as far as into the backrest as I could. By the way, if there is anybody out there that has a more efficient way, a faster way to do this part of covering a stained seat on a chair, please let me know. I'm always open to new ideas, but once again, this is probably the most time-consuming part of it all. This set is ready for primer. I spent way longer than I had planned on the refinishing process, and today I want to be a little bit more efficient with my time by applying bean shellac base primer. This is the fastest way I know how to apply this product, and hopefully later I can paint. It is so hot and humid in here, and this is why the garage door is closed. And this just means that it's gonna take a little bit longer for things to dry, but let's get to it because there are a couple little girls that can't wait to get their hands on this set to have lots of fun. And of course, it's very important that I protect my lungs before I start spraying the primer. I'm gonna be applying a couple of coats. This product dries really fast. I wait 20 minutes between the first coat and the second one. After applying the last coat, you only need to wait 1 hour before painting. There are some times when after applying the primer, the wood grain rises and you can feel texture. It almost feels grainy. I just want to make sure that I knocked any of that texture off by sanding with a fine grit. White primer is always going to highlight any imperfection and even things that you might miss otherwise. Such was the case of this crack that was pretty minor. I only used some wood filler, and the same thing, I waited for it to dry, sanded until smooth, cleaned it. That way my surface was going to be nice and smooth, and it was gonna be like there was never a crack there. Oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be painting the set today. I ended up adding a little bit water to my paint just to make sure that it would spray evenly and apply a total of 3 coats using my Finish Max sprayer from HomeBrite. Guys, it's been 3 days since I painted the set. Yeah, my son had a 3-day soccer tournament away and I just couldn't get to it sooner, but here we are. I have a feeling that I might need to do some touch-ups because even though I try to be really careful when I tape and I wrapped the stained areas, it never fails. Some primer, some paint can always bleed through in some spots. I'm hoping it's not too much. Hopefully later this evening I can start top coating. So let's get to it because I can't wait to finish it off. See what I mean? So unfortunately you can't escape the primer paint bleeding even if you try really hard. I'm gonna have to scrape that little bit of a primer very carefully and touch up with some stain. Do you remember the brace brackets and the screws, the nuts that were keeping all the legs attached? Well, after giving them a good scrub, I spray painted them with this gold metallic paint from Rust-Oleum. Even after one coat, it looks so much better. It really is about the details. As I'm putting the table back together, I can't help but imagine 2 little girls having a tea party with their favorite teddy bears around this piece. And even though I was faced with a couple of challenges during the process of refinishing it, every time I thought about these 2 little girls, it was enough encouragement to keep going. Since I'm already expecting that the table is gonna be well loved, I'm going to be spraying 3 coats of high performance top coat from General Finishes. I really want the set to last for a very long time. Right before applying the top coat, I want to make sure that the surface is clean, so I like to use a wax cloth to get rid of any dust. Sometimes dust falls on your piece while the paint is drying, and you really don't want any of that to be trapped between the top coat and your newly refinished piece. Just a quick reminder that if you're going to be spraying or applying a water-based product over an oil-based one, you really need to wait for the proper drying time. I waited 72 hours before applying high performance top coat over the oil-based stain. It's that time, and we're gonna take a quick look at how the table looked at the beginning of the video. And here is how it looks today. You guys, this is the sweetest set. Those little girls were so excited to get these into their house that they couldn't wait for the set to make it into the bedroom. As soon as mom brought it home and put it in the living room, they just came right over and had to have a snack. Look at the picture, they are so darn cute. Let me know what you guys think of today's makeover in the comments, and I will see you guys next time.